Hi again, everybody. I have a story here from Margaret. Dear Ollie, I do not know whether or not you will receive this email. I'm sorry I can't contribute to your channel because the narc I was with made sure he cleaned me out of everything, from my money to my son. My family are flying monkeys who half-heartedly try to play both sides, citing our son in the middle, whom he snatched and failed to return after being given access whenever he wanted. My mother and brother say they keep in contact for him, but it runs deeper than that, as she ended up with a pup and is going along in the CR to buy a pup, which is now destroying her house and my son under narc control and refusing me my rights as a mother. It is not to walk because it's Granny's job. My mother is 63 years old. She never validates me, and she has watched this man abuse me for years and has not said one thing. I want to believe it's because she was narcissistically abused by my stepfather, who did the whole leaving everyone out of the will thing. We were his family for 30 years, but because of some of my parents' friends talking about this man's behavior and speech is inappropriate, I was put in a children's home at 15 for not physical sexual abuse, but just feeling leered at and finding out he remarked on my boobs at his local pub. All this led to friends of mom tailing me in because I was so creeped out to go home. It led to their fake divorce. So I was let out of the children's home only to be thrown straight into homelessness at 16. My mother had my narcissistic stepdad in the house, and I wasn't allowed to stay there. I ended up in a terrible slum. Landlord bed sits and hooking up with a psychopath who had me for lunch and beat me and abused me for 2 years. At least he didn't destroy my life like the second partner, my husband, did. Since the age of about 12 or 13, I was pretty much to do whatever I wanted, to be honest. I don't think my mom was a fit parent, and I was leaving the house at 9 a.m. and coming back at 10 p.m. at age 13. No dinner, nothing. I was hanging around very poor suburbs, but managed to be intelligent enough not to get into stolen vans and stuff with teens around me. My experimentation with drugs came in the children's home at 15, when I was crushed with guilt because my narc stepdad never touched me, and I felt like I was some kind of sicko to even think those things. My mother was devastated and clearly blamed the entire nothing in the will thing on me. So that's what devastated your mother. That's what devastated your mother. Not that her fucking husband is down at the goddamn bar talking about his 15-year-old daughter's tits. Your mother was in it for the money, clearly. Your mother was just looking for a sugar daddy. That's it. The sugar daddy and the money comes before all else. But your mother got played, didn't she? Didn't she? After experimenting with a green medicine, which was an opiate-based liquid heroin substitute at age 15, I didn't have a clue. The other kids came from situations the same as mine. Alcoholic stepdad, screams and shouts at everyone all the time. Boundary-breaking behavior. He came out in his wise one night. I guess those are, because they have different underwear. In his wise one night in the hall when I was alone going to the bathroom. Needless to say, after the adults calling him a perv and telling me to my face to be careful of him, I still felt guilty because maybe he was randomly sleeping and wandered into the hall. It deeply somehow affected me though, and even now sharing, I feel sad and dark like I'm the one to blame for being a fucking little bitch, as they would say. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. For guys at a bar, okay, because I'm not a big drinker and I'm not that into bars, but I know enough about them. I mean, I've been around them enough. Okay? Men drinking in a bar is almost like a church. What happens in the bar stays in the bar. It's supposed to be. For your stepfather's friends, whoever he was talking to about you in that bar, to come out and tell you, and then continue people calling him a perv, he must have been saying some horrendous shit under the influence of alcohol. Horrendous shit. And it wasn't, and you're saying it's not even just one person. It was multiple people telling you this. Telling you this, which makes it worse what your mother did. Your father came out as such a pervert in regards to you that friends and people came and told you and your mother, like, there is a major fucking problem here. And somehow you're to blame? They have some kind of fake divorce and then she brings him. What? What? You have nothing to feel guilty about. That type of statement by your mother, letting you know when the whole when people come and say you got a problem with your husband, he's saying some fucking horrendous sexual shit about your daughter, and you stay with him. But for people to come and tell her that, and for what have happened to you, okay, tells you why you feel guilty, why you turn in the drugs, why you're trying, because you're meaningless to them. I never thought my mother was ever a narc, but I do think she has narc traits. Before she left me go on holidays, she said she left her dog with another woman. See, if only my daughter was right in the head, I wouldn't have to do this. I'm recovering from being narcissistically abused heavily by my former husband, who left me financially destitute. Took my son, I'm in a custody battle for now, and has been malignantly stalking me and terrorizing me for months. I can barely function because of the fear what they will do next. My background kind of gives it away why I ended up in these abusive partners' lives. I put up with all the shit. I was always the inferior child, not as intelligent as my older brother. Not as streetwise as him, a bit gullible. In reality, Ollie, I am by nature a person who wants to be see the best in people. And I like to give, which I notice narcs absolutely fucking hate. Once there was a girl in my neighborhood who was being neglected as we were poor too, for a while, until my mom married a narc, and then we were not poor financially. Just it came with a whole lot of mindfuckery, that hidden perversion, feeling you can't quite point out to, but no, it lurks there. And an entire lifetime of screaming and shouting all the time for absolutely everything. I know he was also an alcoholic who just copped working, but as soon as work was finished, it was a pint straight away. Look, Ollie, this is where all my narcs fuck with me. I never knew they didn't care about me, but I cared about them. Sometimes I know it's childish, but I just wish the present ones could get better and be able to have a normal relationship. Of course, that's never going to happen. I've cut contact because I know I'll always be the scapegoat, the one with problems. Meanwhile, anything can be happening elsewhere. No attention, just me. My narc ex-husband covertly adores my mother, and she laps it up knowing full well he took me from my citizenship, punched me in the mouth, vanished on my wedding day, then sold the dress for 50 pounds to a friend. It was worth about 500. He then came back the next day and married me in jeans, claiming it was romantic. It broke my heart, Ollie, but I had a newborn, and I wanted to put it down to immaturity. The fact I haven't mentioned here is that in our house, my brother would regularly do evil things, but it just got swept under the carpet, and if I mentioned it, I was a troublemaker. Did I get out of bed the wrong side? Stop yelling at me. It's not my fault. It is your fault, Mom. You don't say a thing and people are abusing me. No validation. At Christmas, 3 months after he left me destitute, he kidnapped my son and she went to my brother's 200 miles away all Christmas and all New Year. I was alone and my own son didn't send a card or a present or anything, not even a call. I love these people, Ollie. I love them. I sat on the toilet bowl and cried like a baby and heard a wail come from my gut I never heard before. When are you going to remember your son, your mother's son? When? But he is abused as well, so that's my fault too. I remember one day I called him to come walk the dog, and Daniel, the dog he later gave away to break our hearts again. Anyway, we came home in our wellies, and he said he didn't want to come. He brewed with narc rage till we came home and started abusing my son, screaming at him about dirty shoes, then yelling at him when the bath got dirty as he washed them. I frantically tried to help get rid of the mess to protect him, but it wasn't the issue. The issue, he had no control, and now we were being punished for having a good time without him. He whipped the dog with a leather belt at 3 months, the trauma of the yelps, Ollie. Oh my God, why didn't I get this man out? Then he would be fine for months, and all would be peaceful, except he was cheating constantly, and all my neighbors were telling me to his face. I threw him out, and he handed me the phone and said, "Call the police." Then throw me out, knowing I couldn't do it, as our laws were married, and unless he hit me, he had the right to live in my house. He isolated me by manipulation for 4 years in the house, took over everything I loved doing, and convinced me I was going crazy. I went to see the doctor who convinced me I wasn't crazy and I needed to socialize. My narc husband had control over my money, my son, my house, and I had no will to live and was living on tranquilizers to cope which just knocked me out. Because he was supposed to be my husband and I thought, like me, he would never do anything to hurt his family. He used antidepressants as a way to call me a junkie, knowing I had the problem with the prescription drugs. They no longer had any effect on my tolerance, was high, and I had no friends, no family. I never thought he would eviscerate me like he did. Wrong. As soon as his papers came after 12 years of supporting him and fighting in court, he left the family destitute. No food in the cupboards. I had to buy clothes for my son from scratch. He had been hiding the fact the kids' underwear and shoes needed replacing by very sneakily behind my back saying, No, it's time he grew up and grew up. You're not to do his clothes anymore. I was disgusted and sad. Again, I felt shame because I thought, never wanting to blame the narc. Oh God, my ex-husband must have been so struggling. He couldn't even do this and didn't want me to worry. That was his excuse, by the way. What about our son? I would do anything to have that child well dressed. Begged my enabler, narky traded mother, if I had to. Why does everything these narcs make us feel sad for them and ashamed for ourselves? He was cheating right and left, so that's where the money went. But I was so brainwashed into this trauma bond. He left for his new girlfriend while we were still married and started smear campaigns calling me a drug addict. My hair was falling out with stress, and they overpowered my son after a year where I literally bent over backwards to please them so my son wouldn't be emotionally damaged more. They used the entire time to undermine my parenting, then finally sent the police 4 times in a weekend with all kinds of accusations, so my house was essentially raided. I was starving my kid. I was crazy. A child was screaming. I can't remember the other. The next day, they took my child, or his first week of high school. They said he was unwashed and hadn't eaten at 13. He had money in his pocket for a roll, and there was cereal and plenty of food in the cupboard. Seriously, plenty of food, as the cops could have said since they were sent the day before. All 4 times my son said he wanted to see all his family. I haven't seen him in months, and social work will do nothing, as they say he's old enough to make his own decision against a man-sized bully, Albert Munoz. They triangulated me in the car park as Tesco's and said they were returning my son. They were not. It was a setup. His girlfriend called the police last moments after we arrived. He said I'd never see my son again and that he didn't want to live with me or be near me. The kid was crying. I lost my shit after a year of calmly trying to reason with evil bastards. They had me arrested for pulling his hair and scratching him and got to drive away in the car with my kid like they were heroes. The next day they mocked me in court and made all sorts of bogus charges as well. They even had me rearrested at New Year by saying I contacted them when I didn't. I never ever contact them and will always remain that way until I get my custodial rights upheld, as this bitch is profiting from my humiliation by claiming my child benefit. This man shows off around town, and he stalked me for months, malignantly trying to get me to lose my property or money. Everything you could think of, he did, and he was the one who left me for another woman, remember. My name is Margaret Munoz McCaffrey. I don't wish to remain anonymous. And their child thieves are Samantha McCready or Tony McCready of Coylton. If this is untrue, I can say this. If not, I understand it. I understand, Ollie. It is ever possible to reclaim my son after this? Is it ever possible to reclaim my son after this? I love your thoughts, and I wish to God I could pay you a contribution as you so deserve it. Thank you for reading. I hope it gets to this. All my sincerest wishes and love and good thoughts to you. Margaret McCaffrey of Scotland. This is why I left. Everything that happened to you is exactly the reason why I left New Jersey. I had to, because this would have happened to me. There is no being nice with narcissists. There's no appeasing them. Anything you do, they are going to turn around and use against you. You're going to be blamed. You're going to be called crazy. And in situations like this, the cops are going to be called. And when you come from narcissism and you marry a narcissist, they're going to work together every time. Every time. We're all only human, and we all can only be pushed so far. They know that. Everybody knows that. So when you stand there in front of them, dealing with them, trying to appeal, you're running the risk of finally losing it. Or having them just make up stories anyway, the both which happen to you. There is no appeasing the narcissist. There is no making nice with the narcissist. Never. This was my fear. This is what would have happened if I had stayed. If I had tried to fight it out up there. You can't win like that. Never. Whether or not it's going to be possible to reclaim your son after this, I don't know. I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, I have to be realistic with you. I doubt it. It seems like you just got too much going against you. What you need to do here's my suggestion for you. And this is going to suck, but I think it's your only shot. Stop fighting to see your son. They are getting off on you fighting this. Walk away from it. Cut your losses. Start again. Start recording yourself. Make a journal for your son, a video journal for your son. So if or when he ever wants to come find you, you can hand him that. But you're not going to win this. And your son might actually be comforted by the fact that you're fighting and never get to see it and all that. You need to cut the cord from all of them. From all of them. Drop off. Drop off the face of the earth as far as all of them are concerned. And then you might actually see them try to suck you back in. They might start trying to call you. And be ready for when they do. Because you need to be set up to record. And then they could be vulnerable. Then you can get them to admit some shit that they did. Oh, well, I only did it because X, Y, and Z. And then you might have them. But for the immediate, I would drop it. I would let it go because you're not going to win this. You're not going to win it right now. The only way, like I said, the only way to beat the narcissist is no contact. And you can go no contact at any time. At any time, because they always want the fight. They want to fight. They want to torture you. So in order for them to torture you, you have to respond to them. Stop responding to them. And I know it sucks that they got your son, but he is going on 14 now. And he does have to make his own decisions. And he has to take some of the responsibility at this age as well for the decisions he makes. So that's the best advice I can give you. Thank you for your story, Margaret. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any advice or opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email link in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.